J is for jelly. By ha ha ha, time for ponies. There was a soft splash, much quieter than you expect from a fall that high. In fact, it was more of a wet slap into liquid. The surface tension took considerable force to break, and the impact winded her. Certain stars wanted to scream. She had just fallen 20 feet in the dark from a rusty catwalk into something cold and wet, and she didn't want to know what it was. Before she could process it, she was already fully submerged, and it was getting everywhere. It seeped into her eyes, into the gases and gouges from her fall, and she gulped it down and inhaled it in her panic to find air. She knew she was as good as dead. She cursed her stupidity and waited for death to come. She should have known better than to take up this offer. Go get the dude out from Southfield, they said. Pre-war arcane waste treatment facilities aren't that dangerous, they said. When she had heard that even Adam's master had turned the job down, she should have known that the notion was indescribably insane, patently suicidal. But their new traveling companions just had to get the idea that this was reasonable. She felt pressure drop on her back. She was at the surface. Of course, wherever it was, must have been denser than flesh, and her robes were caught on bits of falling catwalk, so she floated. She rotated herself back so her head was free and began to tread water. Her eyes felt like they were full of nettles, but she kept them open anyway. Zephyr Rush hovered a short way away, only visible by a little red emergency light above a nearby doorway. Stars went to say something, but she first had to cough out the fluid in her lungs and battle the delirium oxygen deprivation. Zephyr continued to hover a safe distance away. Eventually, Stars managed to gurgle something audible above her own thrashing. "Help me, you fuck!" Was the only thing out of Zephyr's stupid mouth. The metal door below the red light flew off its hinges. Zephyr narrowly avoided it and shot the doorway a couple of times. Stars didn't duck, because he figured getting decked in the face by a subsonic metal door and dying instantly was preferable to dying in the duster runoff. To her chagrin, it made a dent in the vat and carried on past it. "Put those things down, bird brain! There's just us here!" Zephyr made a noise like an injured puppy and dropped to the platform by the door at Pete's liquor scolding. At the least, this was probably what Pete had said, because her northern accent was so thick that even Stars had trouble understanding her sometimes. For your benefit and my sanity, the accent has not been transcribed. So for sake of immersion, when reading Pete's dialogue, ignore every consonant that doesn't require you to close your lips or teeth, and strip the shape of each vowel until it mightily aches to do so. Tongue slicks, still wary of these personal fire-powered catapults, took a moment to step in after Pete. He managed to figure out a light spell, which was an infinite improvement of his utility. Pete brought out a ladder from somewhere outside. A canary held onto it, because that was helping. He was sure of it. Stars with a coin in her head, and it turned up tails, so she reluctantly decided to keep on living. She swam to the end of the ladder, and had been lowered to the edge of the vat, and crawled up to it. Her body felt heavy coming out of the liquid. She stopped climbing, like she was having a sudden change of heart about the path of self-preservation. The others used the one brain cell they had between them and pulled the ladder up. Once the ladder was up, Star sprawled on the platform by the door, and Carlton hacked to get the rest of the fluid out of her system. Everyone else kept a good 10 feet away. Canary didn't do this by choice. He had to be pulled back and slapped on the nose to try to go up Stars and liquor. "What?" Not quite there. Another cough or two, and she had everything out. "What are you idiots standing around? No tells? Not even a 'are you okay?'" Tunsless grimaced. "Not sure how to put this." Canary jumped at Pete's leg as he slapped his nose again. She heard something about retarded wild children. "Wordmaster dumb? Oh, this is rich. What's the problem?" Zephyr lowered a little to get a better look at Stars. "I think the problem is you need some ice cream in a spoon." "What? Take a look at yourself." She looked down. The light for tongue-like spell wasn't great, but it was enough to spat the dancing colors on the liquid dripping off of her. She gulped. She knew two things in liquid form that looked like rainbows. The only thing was likely to be in a hazard factory like Southfield. She pulled her foreleg to look over at it. It took her a minute to figure out where it was, because it certainly didn't look like 5 minutes ago. It was still a grayish lavender, but it was now glossy, translucent, and wobbled. Tesla squealed when Stars levitated the vanity layer from his breast pocket. He tried to play it out coolly, setting down his cravat and combing the back vein again. Being a more competent mage, Stars was able to hold the mirror and provide more light than the other unicorn at the same time. She gulped as she took in her reflection. She ignored the liquid still running off of her. More urgent notice was the see-through nature of her head. She reluctantly tilted it. Her mane was still attached, but it concealed the 6 strands around the front, and a solid mass at the back with 2 plates sticking out. Her ears responded to movement, but when she closed her eyes, it made no difference. Eyelids were too thin to block any light. Well, could have been worse. Going for a tank bath. Sophia's cracked, nonchalant tones were the last things Stars wanted to hear about now. It was a heroic feat of willpower not to smash the mirror and jabbed it into her eyes. Instead, she shoved it back a tongue-slick sterile direction. It smeared on his nose. He spent the next minute wiping it clean. And a minute after admiring himself in it, lamenting what this foul wasteland was doing to his complexion and coiffure. Then why don't you take a dip? Stars, I know it's a bit of a shock, but Pete slapped Canary on the nose again and whistled. He yelled and lay on the floor of the brood. Tunsley stared. Just saying, you're really likely to be a knife now. Stuff is nasty. Guess you're right. Stars took a deep breath. I need a minute. Sophia frowned and looked around. I don't think we have a minute. This place is just way too collapsed, and from what I've heard, fast are pretty low on the danger rating here. Stars started. Look, maybe we should just turn back. It's too dangerous. We got half a lethal dose of radiation in the courtyard on the way in. If we hurry, we should be able to make it out with just under the whole dose. She knew it wasn't how radiation worked, but Sophia hadn't exactly shown herself to be an expert in balefire physics either, and she was a wasteland genius compared to the next party. No, we can't. That's exactly what she was afraid of. We had to finish the job. I mean, how would Steel Rangers feel about a breach of contract like that? We don't make contracts easily. We're self-sufficient. Maybe it's because my brain's now made out of dessert, but I can't really remember why I went on this one with you. Sophia expected her hose, and then the barrels of her guns. You signed on the dotted line. You do what you're paid for. Simple as that. If I'm dead, doesn't make a difference where I get paid, does it? Easy for you, say. You could just run back to your buddies in Warrington. You get food and shelter for doing whatever it is the hell you do in there. If I don't get paid, might as well be dead. Stars grumbled inside. Fine. You like it, go in and die horribly in this industrial tap. I'm out of here. You can't. Was that panic in Sophia's voice? We need you. On any other day, this would have been a part where Stars caught a smart grin. Not something like, I told you so, or how the many have fallen. However, on any other day, she probably would have been made out entirely gelatin. No, fuck off. If I stay with you guys, Canary will probably try to eat me. He perked his ears up at the mention of his name and dragged at the floor as four hosts. Stood up, started walking away, still dripping taint after her. No, wait! Sophia flew in front of her, tried to physically stop her from leaving. Only the squelch of unprotected floor hose, a taint-smeared celly, did she realize what she'd done. The urgent grimace on her face remained, but her gaze tilted from Stars' eyes to the point of contact. Stars remained blank and looked down. Sophia slowly pulled her hose away. The ends of her hose were no longer the same pale gold as the rest of her. Instead, they were now white, cold, and starting to drip. Her jaw hung slack as she brought them up to her face and inspected them. Stars allowed herself to smile. Now we just need a spoon. Sophia took a deep breath and winced. A lump of hose slid off her leg like melting ice cream, and left a white spot on the floor. It smelled faintly of sugar and vanilla. Yeah, let's get out of here. Do.